Welcome to the Wander Creative Podcast, your guide to digital marketing. Journey with us as we navigate organic social strategies, discover the latest in paid advertising, and explore current trends in content creation. Your weekly roadmap to figuring out the ever-changing digital world starts now. Hello, and welcome to Season 2 of the Wander Creative Podcasts. I am Matt Hadley, and I am joined by
Dan Russo.
And we are both on the Wander Creative team, and we are excited to be back here for Season 2. It's been a little bit of time, to say the least. The last time you guys heard us was roughly, I don't remember the exact date, but I think it was sometime in December of 2021.
Wow.
And we are now approaching, what is this, 2023?
Yeah, I mean,
not approaching. We're approaching the end of 2023.
Yeah.
Like we're approaching 2024. So roughly 2 years since we launched into Season 1, and by no means at all is it our intention to let 2 years pass between seasons. I think the original intent was actually to let about 2 months pass.
Yep.
But hey, you know what? Work has kept us busy, and no shortage of changes in the digital marketing world. So we figured, you know what? Let's do a Season 2. Let's do a follow-up. The masses are asking for it, so why not give the people what they want? Isn't that right, Dan?
Yep. Oh, you bet.
So I guess, you know what? Just to kick things off, let's just dive right into digital marketing. You know, what are some of the things that have changed in even just the past 2 years or kind of recent years since we've done this? And let's just start there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's constantly changing. It's crazy. It's definitely a snowball effect. Like, we're seeing more and more change faster the deeper technology is advancing. I know the most common question we are asked is like, how much should I spend? I feel like so many of our clients will even just be like, can you send us some projections of like what spend would get us how far? And I will say that, you know, in recent years, I don't think how much you spend has necessarily changed yet. I mean, there definitely is a little bit growing competition, but also targeting is getting better. So I haven't seen much change there, but I will say that it's still very real that that depending on the time of year you spend, things will cost maybe more, maybe less. So it's still definitely true that like around the holidays, it's super expensive to advertise. But in terms of recent years, I mean, there hasn't been too much of a shift in how much you should spend.
Yeah, so I'm going to get the season started off by immediately going off script here. So sorry if you prepped any of the questions that we had prearranged, but kind of going off of that, I feel like one of the things that we get asked often is not just like how much to spend, but also what people can expect for return. And I feel like a lot of times people have different almost definitions of what they want in a return. Some people are literally just looking for, we are putting out this new video and we want awareness on it. We want to drive traffic to the actual video to get some extra eyeballs in it to drive views. Or some people are they're just releasing a new product, or they're releasing a new, we work with a lot of artists and musicians, so they might be releasing a new tour and have tour tickets, or they might be releasing a new album and want streams. So I guess what are some of those main KPIs, key performance indicators, that people should be paying attention to actually see and monitor, are my ads working well? Yeah,
that's an awesome question. I think it really, I mean, I guess I could give some generic answers to kind of cover some of those bases, but I mean, some of the KPIs that we focus on are obviously clicks. So like, you know, a ton of our campaigns are traffic campaigns. We are leading people to a site, whether that be, you know, a link tree to, you know, all the streaming platforms you release a song on, or whether that's to, you know, a tour page. So I will say we focus on clicks, we focus on cost per click. Impressions and reach, it's, you know, we keep a loose finger on that, but another big one that, you know, we've had even people from Meta come and say like, you should also be keeping a close eye on click-through rate, because that really does give a good indicator on if you're reaching the right audience. We check things like frequency, and even lately, and we'll talk about this on another episode, we've even started checking out kind of the KPI of the comments and engagement, because that's kind of given us a good example of, are we reaching the right audience, and all that good stuff. So, I mean, I would say that click-through rates, cost, overall clicks and stuff like that. Those are all KPIs that are really important to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I love that you said comments and engagement, because I do feel like that's always a great indicator of, are people resonating? Are you actually hitting the right audience? I mean, I know a lot of times we do a good amount of prep work on the front end, especially with newer brands, of who do we think that core consumer is? Who do we think that core target demographic is? And we'll sometimes run an ad and we know pretty quickly within even, probably a day or two of, oh, people are really resonating with this because they're liking it, they're engaging with it, they're saying, oh, I can't wait for this. Like I've already purchased tickets, or, but we also can make determinations pretty quickly on, there's one client that I'm thinking of that was doing a higher end kind of experiential, almost VIP type experience. And you came back with the comment of, hey, a lot of the comments that we're getting, a lot of the engagement we're getting on this is that people are saying, this sounds awesome, I would love to do this, but unfortunately I can't afford it right now. Yeah. And so we were able to then take that knowledge and tweak the targeting to a higher income level. And that's really one of the cool things I think about being able to do digital marketing and make those real-time decisions as a campaign is in flight.
Yeah. I agree. I was just going to say, and we aren't above the fact that sometimes when you advertise, like, you'll hit a wrong audience. And that's kind of what that testing phase is for. We kind of say sometimes here, like, if you fail fast. In that, there have been times where we've looked at a campaign and someone has said, like, hey, why am I seeing this ad? We're like, all right, that's good to know. There's some tweak that needs to be made. Yeah. And other times, like you said, hopefully most of the time, where people are saying, wait, this sounds like such a great experience, we really want to be a part of this. And you're like, awesome. We're definitely targeting the right audience.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the new things I feel like has really hit us in 2023, I mean, I say it's new, but realistically it's been around for a while, but probably not as mainstream as it is now. But AI, I feel like that is a buzzword right now, is, everyone is talking about chat GPT and all of the other mini AI models out there. Obviously, you have everyone from Microsoft saying that, hey, we're going to put AI into Microsoft Word. And, you have even Google, who is saying, hey, we're going to make Google search a little bit more AI oriented. Yeah. So I guess as AI is taking over the news in this space, how, if at all, how has it affected, or how do you think it's going to affect advertising, both in the near term and the long term?
It's really wild to think about, because a lot of times people think of AI and they think text-based, image-based, video-based. And it's a lot of times more the creative elements that people have been utilizing AI for recently, with things like Adobe's generative fill and stuff like that. That's all been coming out. But what's interesting is the AI that you don't see. So like Meta, for instance, their AI within their advertising platform is how they find your audiences. So when you pull a lookalike audience, Meta's actually using AI to help you find and to kind of lean into learning more about where this ad is going and stuff. So I would say it definitely is changing the AI or the advertising space. And really, I mean, I'd say even on that creative side, lean into it. If you're an advertiser, 100% use it. We use it a lot for our ad copy. We use ChatGPT. And ever since we started utilizing it, I actually was on a call with a client yesterday, and she was just saying, like, wow, the ad copy has been so good that we ended up using it for video content, like a script. And she even said, I never thought about using or like saying those things about our product. And I said, well, that was technically AI, but yeah. And so it works really well. And so I would say, I mean, it definitely is changing the world of advertising in terms of how you reach those new audiences. But I would also say, of course, lean into those creative AI uses as well.
Yeah, I definitely feel like there's a lot of trepidation right now about AI and the negative ramifications that it could have. People are saying, oh, AI is going to get too smart, it's going to take over the world. Or, obviously that's the very hyperbolic way of saying it. But then there's also just the more, as we are filming and recording this, hopefully, you know, this episode's going to be coming out here in just a couple of weeks. So hopefully it's over by then. But right now there is the writer strike out in Hollywood going on, and but one of the main sticking points is that writers are worried about AI coming and potentially taking jobs. And I feel like that's, you know, obviously that's a very large scale version of it, but I've had so many different conversations with people asking, hey, how is AI going to impact us? Is that going to take my job as a marketer? Am I going to be, as a copywriter, am I going to be replaced by AI? And I heard the analogy recently, and I think I really agree with this, is, you know, well, first off, my argument is AI, while in its current iteration to us is new. Yes, ChatGPT and things where you basically say, hey, help me write this prompt or help me write this copy. Things like that haven't been around for a while. But AI in some iteration, in some form, has been around for quite some time.
Yeah.
I mean, even like you said, Facebook and their algorithms and what they feed, even just the user experience, that's technically AI.
Yeah.
And even when you search in something in Google, that technically is a form of AI. That is artificial intelligence helping deliver the experience. Now, it hasn't ever been necessarily to the level it is now.
Yeah.
But it is interesting that people don't have issues for the most part. I mean, some people do, but most part, people don't have issues with like Siri, Alexa, some of those things that are technically AI. So that's really interesting. And the second point on that too, and then we'll move on because I know we could rant on about AI and all these things forever. But the second point too is I feel like it really does become just a new base level of, hey, this is what, you know, it might have used to take us half hour, 45 minutes to write good quality copy. And it may have taken us an hour and a half to write really, really, really strong copy.
Right.
I think that it just brings up the batting average of us being able to write really good copy more often.
Sure.
Obviously,
Agreed.
I think that we are naturally great copywriters, and that's why we are in this field to begin with.
Yep.
But I think that it gives us more of a hot streak more often. And I also think that it drastically decreases our time to whereas something may have taken half hour and a half might literally be cut in half or more. Like, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I know it's cliche, but it really helps you do your job better in other areas. So it's a tool to be used. And I think the same way about the computer, like when the internet and the computer was invented, I think there was the same fear of like, well, you know, it's going to take over a lot of the stuff that it's like, no, we use it now. Like now that actually created so many new fields of jobs. And so I think it's really beneficial, but you will be left in the dust if you're not using it. So
yeah. And to be fair, I guess when the computer and really any technology has come, yes, it has shifted the way we work.
Yeah.
It has probably, you know, changed jobs and job titles, but it's just a new skill set. And I think that you have to be wary of not embracing it because you don't want to get left behind. But then, you know, there is some, you know, you obviously don't want to just blindly go into something, you know, foolishly.
Agreed.
Okay, so obviously we've talked about AI. That's a really big trend, a really big change over the last couple of years. But what are some of the other latest trends in advertising that you are seeing right now?
Yeah, so I was actually talking to someone from Meta not long ago about this exact topic, and he kind of, it was really affirming because he was saying the things that we've already been implementing. So it's kind of cool to see that we're kind of taking a very proactive approach. But vertical video, number one, that's key. He even said at one point, he said like, if nothing else, it better be vertical. And it was like, you know, get
that's
it.
Pretty strong.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I think that's just kind of the future for sure. Videos are getting shorter and shorter. They're about as short as our attention span, which is a bummer. But yeah, I mean, it's getting to the point to where it's like, if it's over 15 seconds, it's, you know, unless it really is a story-driven narrative, it's got to be like 15 seconds or less. If not, like 6 seconds is kind of the ideal span within that, which is crazy. Closed captioning, super important on every video. And so, I mean, we're seeing that not just Meta, but TikTok, a lot of platforms are squashing content, even organically, if it does not have closed captioning on it, because they understand that, so many people scroll with silent mode on. And so they're just looking and they say, you know, we don't want to promote content to you if it will mean nothing if you're on silent mode. So that's huge. And I mean, on that, there are multiple ways. If you're listening to this podcast, there are so many ways you can get that through, a lot of times natively through the apps. If you're running ads on Meta, there are plugins that their AI, watch out, will listen in and then can create closed captions on a video, and then you can go in and edit it if it made any mistakes. But if you're not using that, of course, there are plugins for Final Cut, Premiere, all that good stuff. So opportunities for you to make sure you have closed captions on your video. And then, of course, like the authenticity element is still super important. I think Adweek said it was over 75% of consumers say they still definitely trust people over brands. And so any way that you can either utilize people that everyone trusts, or just be authentic and kind of more on that organic side will be really helpful. Now, obviously, there are some exceptions to that rule. If, there's an artist who's, like a rock band that's going on tour, if it's showing the rock band and it's a great vertical video, then people don't really care about that authenticity side as much if they're already fans. But for the most part, that is also true. So those are some of the biggest trends we've seen.
Yeah.
But those are very important ones to be taken into consideration, because we also know that platforms like Meta say, like, we really will squash your content if it doesn't meet these kind of criteria.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so we just have a couple of minutes left, but in these final few minutes, tell us maybe 3 ways that brands can up their marketing game right now.
Yep. All right. Well, let's run it back. So like we talked about, using AI. Using AI for your ad copy. Play around with visual AI. There's a lot of great things to do. Really, if you haven't checked out Adobe's generative fill in their AI features now, they are kind of leading the game, and they're also really fun to use. We have a couple posts on our page as well about us using them if you want to check that out. Short form content, so short caption if you can. People don't want to read long things anymore either. But that's all part of the testing as well that you'll want to do, is test long copy, short copy, longer video, 15 seconds-ish to 30, and short 6 to 10. Being sure that you have vertical video like we just talked about, and then that bonus one, which would always be using closed captions. And those are all things that can kind of step up your advertising today.
I love that so much. Awesome. Well, thanks, Dan. And thanks, everybody, for joining us. If you are watching the video version, thank you. And if you are listening in your car or on a workout or whatever you might be doing, thanks for taking the time to spend with us. And we will see you next time. Thanks for joining us for the Wanda Creative Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and consider leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform. And if you missed any of the highlights, don't worry, you can get all of the show notes at wandacreative.com/podcasts. And while you're there, sign up for the digital drop to get new episode alerts and also receive the latest digital marketing news, tips, and tools delivered straight to your inbox. Until next time.